Hey students, we are going to get a little bit more prepared for our landscape painting. So I want you guys to get a half-inch or quarter-inch brush and clean them off, get them ready to go, have a paper towel, a cup of water, and all your paint colors. So we're going to do a warm and cool gradient. And we'll start by charging up our brush, the red, and I do want you to get a little bit of experience with dulling intensity. Now we can use green, which is the complement. This black kind of has a lot of green in it, but I'm just going to dull the intensity of my red, not very much because I'm not going to apply a lot of this, but I'm going to put it at the very top. Again, we are practicing brush control, so not too much water on your brush, but just enough to get the paint to be a little bit more fluid. So you want to try and stay within your box just for brush control. So I've added a little bit of red with a shade of red with black in it, just for the top. I'm going to practice warm and cool. I'm going to put down some pure red. The red is very thin, this particular brand, so it does take multiple coats to get the opacity up. So, this is a practice gradient on your actual painting. If it has a warm sunset in the background, this skill will be helpful for you. Okay, so I'm not even going halfway down, a little over a third, 1/3. So I'm going to clean my brush off, try and take out some of the red, and charge up the yellow. Now we know red and yellow make orange, so it looks like I might need to hand mix the orange. This red is really absorbing very quickly into the paper, so I'll put a little bit of yellow here. Yellow is very thin pigment, so it's very transparent on top of the red. You can choose how high up you want to go. I don't want to completely swallow what I've done with the dark red at the top, this shade of red. Even out my orange. Now, if it's a sky, it's not going to be, perfect all the way across. The sky has so many variants with the streaks it can have. So think of this as like a little mini landscape sky. Oops, I went outside my box. You can always fix it up. Okay, so now I'm going to completely clean my brush off, get all the pigment out of the brush, and I'm going to grab a little bit of the white, bring it over here, and just kind of charge up my brush a little bit, and I'll start right below it and blend into what I've done. Just trying to get a little bit of a realistic horizon here. This paint is absorbing quite quickly into the paper, which is not bad. We're just working in layers. It's not a completely even like wash gradient like you would do with watercolor. This is like a layered gradient, which is nice for sunsets. So it's just one coat. If you want to get some of the opacity of the orange built up, you could let it dry and go back over it again. I'm going to put more yellow here. You can go back over this with white in a minute. I might mix up some more of this orange color. So knowing when to stop is really important. This is a little bit of an experiment for you guys. So I added a little bit of white there to kind of build up the opacity. And looking at my screen on the camera, it's a lot duller on my paper. It's more vibrant in the camera. I like what I have, but again, if this was your actual painting, you might be more focused on adding layers. So if you end up, like you're adding more layers and you end up with this hard line like that, and it's a a gradient blend between the red and the yellow. It's an orange. If it's still actively wet, you can go back to your orange or grab your yellow. Just go back in and re-blend it. It's very important. We're trying to build up our confidence here and trying new things. And if you want to just try to carry it all the way down, you can. I want mine to be, somewhat smooth, but maybe with some irregularities. Now I don't want to pull my orange down too low. I'm going to clean my brush off. Depending on which tutorial you find works best for you, these variations will change. Alright, so the bottom, I'm going to add some more white and yellow. Let me get my lightest value. And if this were a landscape, or if we were practicing landscape, we can draw on this after, but it'd be kind of fun to, put in some mountains right here, really make it look like a whole scene. And we can still do that. I just want to focus on gradient for now. Okay, so I'll let that dry for a few minutes. I'm going to go in with the black and, make it into a little landscape. We can do that too. But let's practice mixing some cool colors maybe in a different way. So I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, and this blue, it's a little bit on the bright side. It's not dark blue. It's not going to mix entirely the way that we want, but I just mixed a little bit of blue and black together. And go right across, add a little bit more pigment. Oops. Okay, so I've gone a little bit of blue and black. I kind of want to darken the blue at the top, just for fun. Just bring down our shade. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brush. And put a little bit more blue on here. Just remember, when we do this, the final one, you'll have a primed surface, so it'll be a little less absorbent. I'm going to grab some white, charge up the white, starting just a little bit below, and blend it upward. Remember, we're layering. You really got to think in layers with acrylic paint. And if you don't like what you get, then the beauty of it is you just paint over it. Okay, that's a little bit darker than I wanted, so I'm going to clean my brush off and go back over it with white, starting from the bottom. So it's kind of like a really light blue on the bottom. So if we want to talk about absorption rate, this paper has a very fast absorption rate. But it's kind of fun to work with. It's great practice. Okay, just kind of dulling the intensity of this blue. Okay, so here we have, it's kind of an irregular gradient, but that's fine. You know, if it was actually a sky, I would make it even more irregular. And we're done with gradient study. And if you know, have permission from your teacher, you have a smaller brush, if you want to play around with, adding in something to kind of make it look like a horizon. This is pure black, which normally we would, mix complements to do this. If you want to add in a horizon of some sort, just remember when we start studying horizon and foreground, middle ground, and background, it's going to be most intense in the front. So if we were actually going to make this more realistic, we would want to, start with what's further back on the horizon. This is like an orange and brown mixed together. So I'm just kind of, creating atmospheric perspective here. And then I will go over it again with foreground, more intense color. So with atmospheric perspective, it gets lighter the further back it goes. Okay. And I'm still letting everything else dry. You could, practice doing some trees or different things on this, but you want to master your gradients mostly. If you have approval from your teacher, or if you have extra time, you can practice doing some line work. So you want to take your number 1 brush and spin it in the paint to kind of give it the nice point. And then water for fluidity. And drag that up. Add a little bit more water to make it more fluid. So I always tell students to go off in like a V or a U shape when just practicing trees, just generic trees. You can look at a reference image if you like, but again, this is just practice, and then practice mark making with your brush. These are just really simple, easy trees that anyone can practice. And give it a little bit of texture. So when it's close up, the closer it is, the more detail you'll see. And then if it's further away, don't forget you have to mix a gray, a brownish gray. Orange and black can make a gray. If you wanted to do a tree that's further away, it should be smaller and lighter. Oops. Uh-oh. Oopsie. A little water blob came out. Now my tree's going to have to get a little darker. It's really not fixable on paper unless I paint over the whole thing. There goes my perspective. I think I had too much water in there. Okay, enough with that one. So for the bottom part, your rough draft practice, you'll need a pencil, and you'll need to start mapping out foreground, middle ground, and background. So let's go ahead and label this. Foreground, middle, and background. Okay? So looking at whichever image is in your tutorial, map out your foreground, and then your middle ground, and then whatever you have in the background. So it just depends on which items you choose. But this should be in reference to your tutorial. So if you have grass in the front, or trees, or a river in the middle ground, you need to practice your composition before you draw it on your final product. So this is where you'll practice that.